Next, we talked a little bit about war cries, but I like what you've done with war cries, adding different ones that have different mechanics, and the idea seemed to be mostly intended for melee, and the aggro was changed with them, I guess, for that, to make them see that you can, play your more tanky character that's drawing aggro off enemies, and it's like the aggro draw is really good now. Like, it's very sticky. I'll have my 3 totems up and I'll be in a party of 3 people. I'll like taunt from halfway across the screen and all the mobs will charge over to me. So it's working as intended, I guess.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, so currently it applies a 3-second taunt to the monster, where they effectively can only see you.
Wow.
And bosses have a 9-second cooldown on that. If they're taunted, they can't be taunted again
so
for 9 seconds.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Can't juggle them unless you have like taunt duration, but then you're not really, you're juggling less frequently. So taunt duration is something we might be seeing on duels or something like that.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
So that's good, and that's good because a lot of people wanted a taunt or the ability to taunt so they can play their tanky character to help protect their friends. However, it seems like the way war cries have worked out is that everyone wants to use a war cry of some description, like they're applicable to everyone.
Right.
And that's like destroying me as a caster. That taunt, I'm like, I wish there was a way of turning off the taunt. I was like, please.
If there was, it would have to have an opportunity cost, because it's kind of intended that you're taking some beatings in exchange for the buff. But
yeah.
I'm just gonna take another quick break, seeing as I'm losing my voice and need some water.
Yeah, sure thing. I might do the same.
In a minute.
I'll be back in a minute too. Alrighty, cool. Guys. I'm gonna take a 1 minute, and we'll get back for some more Q&A when I get back. See you then. Alrighty, I'm back. Ziggy has 6. Totems have 2 additional projectile gems. Yeah, 6 or 7? Let me have a look. 1 Rain of Splinters, 2 Rain of Splinters, 3 Rain of Splinters, 4, 5 Rain of Splinters, 6 Rain of Splinters, and perhaps a little later, some more.
Oh, I'm back now.
Welcome back, welcome back. I was just doing some of my own poetry. Okay. Here's another thing I wanted to ask about war cries. When they were initially, there was an image leaked or posted or something about them, it had no cast time listed on Tooltip. I assume that was just an error at the time. But people got really hyped about this idea of no cast speed war cries. What was, I guess you guys probably read that and then decided to go with the short cast speed they have now, which is quite short. But
there's a bunch of mechanical problems. Like a programmer is better at explaining exactly why no cast time stuff is problematic, but every time I suggest it to a programmer, they give me an evil look. The way Detonate works with its instant detonation isn't like absolutely instant, and it only works because Detonate's a special kind of action and things like that. So it's not something we can easily do. Like, we could with a great effort, but it has problems, and it's just bad with sync in that it's all the cast time stuff. The server has some warning and things like that, even if it's a tiny amount. it can make all the difference in the world. So there's technical reasons why there's no castless,
All right, fair
cast
enough.
timeless
Yeah,
skills.
I can see why people will hype though the idea of it being something you can do while doing other things, and because it is just your character shouting, really. I guess it's a full-bodied shout. We just have to go with that.
Yeah, we're getting faster animations, or we're trying out faster animations for the shout, so it looks a bit better when played as quickly as the war cries are at the moment. So they're gonna stay fast, but yeah.
Cool. Well, I do like that they are faster. I mean, I was playing for a while there with the broken enduring cry that was half a second instead of a quarter of a second. It felt so good when it changed to a quarter of a second. That makes such a big difference. Craziness.
Right, that's good. Good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure war cries were all half a second before. Well, enduring cry was half a second previously, right? Yeah, so yeah, it'll be a boost.
This is probably another programmer question, but is it possible to be moving while war crying? Because I don't think Peewee has anything like that, does it? Really, except Cyclone?
No,
But
not really.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if we make it a flask that triggers your war cries, or we have a trigger gem, then yes. But anything that uses cast time where your character is actually doing stuff, we can't.
yeah, fair enough.
So yeah.
I understood that. It was
As
probably
much as I'd like to.
Game mechanics, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Cyclone had some issues with that when it was originally being developed or something. I seem to recall something like that. So the other interesting addition that you mentioned, the new thing when you get to Act 4, is golems. It seemed like, I think Chris said that it felt like a lot of people were using them, but not everyone, and that was pretty good. How do you guys feel fitting in now a week later that people have had more chance to use them?
It seems pretty good. Like, getting their numbers right is tricky because their life, you don't want your golem to die as soon as you summon it, but you don't want it to be indestructible. You want it to do some damage, but you don't want it to be doing all the work. The damage boost, I mean, the buffs they give you really help us, and that they're just like, this is a straight up bonus for using them, but the opportunity cost may be too low for that at the moment. I'd rather give them a higher opportunity cost, like a small amount of reservation or something like that, than I would reduce the buff, because you don't want them to feel like a minor buff that everyone has to have. You want to feel like it a big deal where you're choosing to give up a herald or you're choosing to give up some sort of other skill gems you could be using in exchange for a golem. But I've been pretty happy with the response in terms of how attached people have been to him. That's sort of the biggest deal. They're very much man, it would be cool to have a golem following you around, is the core design principle, rather than like, we need this to provide more bonuses for this or that. It's very much man, I want a little pet golem.
You do get attached to them, yeah. Little bros.
The skill design came from, we talked about getting elemental monsters that we could just use in any situation for like a random monster summon skill or something like that, just to bring in elemental minions that were different from like a general summon any exile or caster could use. I mean, and then when we saw the models, I thought that we needed to make it into a skill. Like, who wouldn't want this to be a skill? So they're very much this is an awesome thing to have, rather than a solving design problems, which is unlike me, but when it comes to skill design. But yeah, they're just so cute.
They are. I was just looking at the fire golem has really big feet.
That might be changing. Like, there are people who aren't happy
What?
with
Craziness.
the flaming cats, but there are people who really like it. So I don't know.
Leave
It's
his
tricky.
feet alone.
I know, he can't help it. He was one that can...
Wow, some people. Disgusting.
For a while, the Chaos Golem only had 2 legs, and he looked absolutely hilarious. Like, we had to change him because he was too silly. But yeah, imagine his big body being held up by 2 tiny legs.
I do like the kind of scuttling
times.
crab look that he's got, just constantly breakdancing. The Chaos Golem. I'm most attached to the Chaos Golem, I think.
It's good. It's good. You've got a favorite golem. I'm curious to see what the most popular. Actually, we should find out what the #1 golem is.
That'd be
what
curious.
the crowd favorite is, because and whether it's just going to be because they look the coolest, or whether because it's actually about their stats.
I think the strongest and most impactful is the Ice Golem, but it's only for crit attack based builds. In my opinion,
right.
Only useful for those. Like, I don't think that the crit buff by itself is really worth using on most like crit casters. But so I guess probably not him, even though he's probably the strongest. Like the Chaos Golem has the most application, but I think the Fire Golem will be the most popular, just as raw damage everyone can use really, except for Summoner.
Yeah, I like him because he's got some interesting stuff you can do with supports. Not necessarily actually worth doing, but like some cool interactions of like with GMP, he starts to get a bit crazy.
They are usable as like a little temporary buff if you don't link them to anything. So if you're not a summoner and you don't link them to anything, they die, you know, pretty quickly against most dangerous things. But you kind of get to use them as a little temporary buff. So you're talking about the opportunity cost of them earlier, and it seems like if you want to keep the buff up reliably, then you do need to invest. I mean, I'm rocking with my Fire Golem, Life Leech, Minion Life, and Minion Resist, and that seems like that or Fortify instead of Leech seems kind of necessary if you want to keep the buff up consistently. And even then, I still have to resummon him every now and then.
Okay, well that's good. Then they're succeeding in that regard.
But that's a pretty big slot investment for a rather small buff. So when you're talking about the opportunity cost of making the buff bigger, I feel like it's dangerous because if you do make it bigger, then it's going to feel like a mandatory thing to people. But we have so many good choices now that it seems like another choice could, you know, because it's four gem slots to get a decent one running. That's a decent opportunity cost. I don't know. Maybe there's room for it to be a little stronger.
We'll see. There are certain developers who are super keen to have it as a reservation cost, just so it's got a very quantifiable cost. But if it really is that much socket pressure to keep it active at end game, like for every build except summoners, then that's really good.
Yeah, and then
ideally
golems don't really
summoners
have much application for golems anyway. Like they're not super useful.
Yeah, Chaos Golem is kind of intended as the. I was kind of hoping Lightning might be useful for Summoner, but that's ages away, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I was wondering if Lightning might end up filling that slot, but currently Chaos seems to be the way to go as a Summoner. So we talked about the Chaos Golem a bit on Skype the other day, about the ranged attack, and how he's kind of intended as the tank, but he uses this cross-screen ranged cascade attack, and he's usually like standing behind my character, even as a cascader with very long range. So, any more thought given to that?
Oh yeah, I just totally forgot to put it on my list of things to do, but I'm going to try out reducing the range on his skill and making him more likely to engage in melee.
Yeah,
if
nice.
There are melee targets.
That seems like it'll be a pretty nice fix for the Chaos Golem. That was my only gripe with him, really, was that he was always attacking at range. Cool. Yeah, no, I'm very happy with how the golems turned out, and that they're just nice and flavorful, and a cool addition. A good reward for getting to Act 4, I'd say. Get your own little friend. Yeah, it's pretty nifty when you head into the mines. You kind of get to pull out your own little Chaos Golem.
Yeah.
That's pretty nifty.
Out of interest, this is my question for you. Have you noticed how the Chaos Golems appear in the mines?
Yeah, I noticed that first time. It was funny, Chris didn't expect me to notice that either, because he asked the same question. But yeah, I saw the miners like pulling them out. I was wondering how they were pulling out first, but I eventually saw the miners digging them out. It was pretty cool. Nifty little thing.
Cool. Yeah, it's worried. There's a bunch of there's not that many, but we like doing little things where if you notice stuff, you can prevent it or avoid it. But it's pretty hard when they die off the screen half the time, or you aggro them and they run straight for the wall out of your line of sight. So yeah.
Chat really wants you to know to not give golems reserve cost. I play solo now. I finally have a friend. Don't take him away. I second this. The chat spam.
So if he was to have a reserve cost, it would be like 10% or something. Like not big, but just. At least you're paying something other than gem sockets for him. But it sounds like from your feedback that that's not necessary. So it's not entirely my call.
Oh my. Alright, the question, it has been addressed, guys. It has been addressed. Please no spam Marino in my chat. So,
I really like the cascade. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Makes
me happy.
Here's my own sad thing was I don't cast when damage taken totems anymore. I went to put it now that I'm finally using high level cast damage taken to run a Mortal Call because it makes sense with the new setup. I went to put my devouring totem on there and no deal.
Right. So this is because they're getting, just like traps and mines and war cries, their own cast time.
Okay.
And we'll make the bonuses in the tree a lot more potent. And already their base cast time has been set lower. I think it's 600 milliseconds, 0.6 of a second now. So they're going to be a lot simpler. And we can do dedicated totem, like we can do totem on damage taken.
Yes, just like cry
something
on
like that
damage
if we
taken.
wanted to.
But,
Yes, like cry on damage taken. Well, we were talking about cry on melee hit as a potential support or something like that.
cry on build nerfed, etc.
Yes. So stuff like that it is now available to us. Like, it just gives us more balance control. We can make ranged attack totem better to start with, and totem's less instantaneous once you have crazy attack speed. But it was a tough choice because I do like custom damage taken devouring totem. But yeah, we might see it again in some other form in future.
Cool. I would like to have that little devouring totem pop up for me. I love that that was the one thing I was really sad because the when level 1 custom damage taken could proc everything. Like, that was obviously broken, but I was sad when I lost my devouring totem because he became useless after that nerf. So I was very excited for him to finally be coming back. No deal. But he was my friend before golems existed. You took him away.
Maybe he could do with a bigger buff as well, so you have a reason to actually cast him.
Yeah,
for real.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, cast time is valuable.
Cast time is very
definitely
valuable.
a big opportunity.
That's DPS time, Rory. Cry on friends gone. Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a bunch of skills that are getting changes. I was just thinking Bone Offering is currently, it's reasonably high up on the use charts, but only to consume corpses. So Bone Offering that actually, like, we looked at, the current thing we're going to try out is having it so your minions are healed when you block, when they block. Not when you block, when they block. So you have a much stronger, you know, your minions can actually keep themselves active if you're using Bone Offering. Which might have some interesting interactions with Golem tanks and stuff. I don't know. We'll see. There's a bunch of changes that we'll be seeing soon on, hopefully soon on beta. And so Devouring Totem might join the ranks and improved stuff.
Rad.
We'll see. There's no reason why it can't have a shorter cast time than the offensive totems, seeing as it's not as offensive.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good way to approach it. Defensive mechanics are not seen as that fun, but mandatory, so making them a little more fun, but taking away some of the fun opportunity cost. Cost.
It still costs your totem slot, and it still costs gem slots. So
yeah, that's it. It has that drawback, exactly. Totally. Cool. Yeah. Totemally. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I can't help myself. Can you comment on, like, quest rewards for skills? I know you do, like, skill balancing, but I don't know if you've done anything to do with the quest rewards.
Yeah, well, Neon Spider and I worked closely on that stuff. He made all the rational decisions, and I made all the emotional ones on that stuff. So, yeah, it was very much like he wanted to improve the progression system a lot, and both of us wanted the gem vendor system in, which we're hopefully going to see soon once that we have proper UI for it.
We haven't been officially told what that is exactly. I don't believe. What's the plan there? If you can.
It's the basic plan. I don't know if I should go into the full details because they could quickly change. Is just when you complete a quest, the gems from that quest and perhaps a couple of others that are too specific to give away as a quest reward will then be available from a vendor.
Okay.
As to where that vendor is and how much they cost and how scarce, I mean, you know, whether there'll be a limit or anything like that remains to be seen. But the general idea is if you picked the wrong gem, you can buy the one you're missing. Or if you're building like a wand, which we don't want to give wand skills as a primary quest reward to witches out of the gate because they'll start having a bad time if they don't know how to play wands properly. So we instead put it on the gem vendor rewards, so the wand characters still get the progression they need, but it's hidden away from the new players.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Alright, so in the beta currently, like, quest rewards overall are pretty... I like what you've done with moving a lot of the support gems and stuff down. but they're pretty broken in the beta at the moment. Is there any particular reason, just as a side note, why the multi-strike, echo, etc. quest is currently bugged or not? I mean, it's been that way since the last wipe, so it seems like an intentional decision. What's going on there?
I am not sure. I'll have to find out from people about that.
The multi-strike hunger is real, man.
I'll have to check. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Alrighty, fair enough. I was like, I'm sure that would have been bug reported enough, but maybe everyone thought the same and no one actually bug reported it. But yeah, everyone's buying.
That does happen fairly frequently.
Someone else has got it.
It's so obvious that no one knows about it.
Yeah.
Yep. No, someone else is almost certainly aware of it if it's been mentioned at any point, but not me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, late game, like Merciless, almost exclusively, I think, maybe fully exclusively, gives item rewards now rather than any extra gems. Is that because you'll be able to buy those gems? So it's just the system's incomplete at the moment? Okay. Because that was like kind of weird change.
And they may be leveled as well, so...
oh, they may be leveled, so you get like a partially leveled up
not
gem.
yeah, partially leveled.
That's a good idea.
Yes. Okay. I've been informed that the reason that quest isn't working is because it's a temporary hack that will be removed or improved soon.
Right.
Just in place so that we can get you between difficulties. I think. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Cool. Do you mind if we talk more specifically about some skills that people have been asking about?
Sure, yeah. It's probably okay for me to answer about them. Yeah. Go ahead.
Alrighty, sweet. So this one's in regard to elemental proliferation, its changes. Is there any plans for changing Avatar of Fire with the way it was nerfed? Like, I felt like a lot of the drawback was because of elemental proliferation, burn proliferation, how strong it was. Is there any sort of... Are you looking at that at all?
It's not currently on the cards. Like, it's one of those keystones where plenty of people used it in the past, so we got to see how many people are using it now before we make any sudden moves on it. We don't want to buff it and then have it turn out that Ali Prolif is still... or Herald of Ash Prolif or something like that with Avatar Fire is just too good. But we'll see. There's more ways to specialize fire skills and things like that with Jules now. It's very tricky. Everyone's kind of scared of it because of way back in the day.
You're all
every
scarred.
single, in close beta, everyone had Avatar of Fire, so we're not just gonna throw stuff on it until it's good.
Avatar of Fire. I thought so.
Baby steps around it. We don't wanna set it off. We want to make it angry.
My burn.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, what was that?
The next one is Infernal Blow got its own kind of pretty big nerf hammer. It got pretty much destroyed. So from what it was that, how are you guys feeling about So what like it seemed pretty strong. Abyssal Cry plus Molten Infernal Blow and that. Yeah, all right. Talk me through it.
Monster Life went up by a lot.
Yeah,
like a lot towards Merciless, and even greater in maps, like significantly higher in maps. So I think probably I might be wrong. Yeah, but it went up, so we needed to bring it down. And I'm pretty sure someone on Reddit pointed out that it's like 25% corpse damage, while Detonate Dead is 8 or 6. So it needed to be brought more in line. And I'm pretty sure it's still higher than Detonate Dead, but it's a little harder to use and so on. Obviously, harder to spec for. So the changes are recent, so we're still testing them out. But it's a dangerous thing. Now that the explosion doesn't reflect damage, it's going to be a lot safer to use with Melee Splash in-game. But, so no promises whether it's going to get better or whether we think that it's in the safest place it can be.
Yeah, it seems like the drawback is much less now. Reflect was a big issue.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the buff to Monster Life all across the board, corpse explosions really needed to reflect protection of some form.
Yeah, that's a good point. From the perspective of dealing damage with them, though, it doesn't isn't that just like linear with mob HP if that damage is increasing? Like, what's the issue there? I may be missing something.
It's really that there's a handful of obviously rare and magic mods still apply to the corpse life, so you can get exponentially more life from those guys, or something like 800% more life is what they have as a bonus. So you get that much more damage, and that makes it really tricky to control when you can kill a rare and one-shot a boss with it.
Yep.
But it's a tricky one. I'm kind of the opinion that I would rather push more flat damage, like Detonate Dead, less of the corpse damage, but that really takes away the interestingness of the skill. It just becomes a limited use AoE at that point. So trying to find the sweet spot between the two, and that's not easy.
Yeah, definitely. Percentage damage based things like Crushing Blow and Detonate Dead always seem to be pretty rough to deal with balance wise.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Detonate Dead is a skill that doesn't require you to have anything other than, or any damage yourself. So we've got to keep it low because of the few things that do increase it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough. So I think I mentioned it to you. Cascade's awesome now with the way it travels, and I asked about Arctic Breath. Any news on that front? And it's in terms of how it travels.
Again, with the other programmer stuff, we're still waiting on programmers, but the plan is to have it so that it passes. It acts like a normal projectile and drops ground ice if it's close to the ground.
What does that mean exactly if it's close to the ground?
Like, if you fire the projectile forward off a cliff, it will drop ground ice in front of you, and then as soon as it gets to the cliff edge, it will stop dropping ground ice, and it will just fly above, the ground. So if you fire it on an angle up a cliff, it'll drop ground ice at first, and then once it gets high enough above the ground, up to cliff height, it'll stop dropping ground ice until it's on the ground above the cliff again.
Ah, okay,
so,
interesting.
If that makes any sense. Yeah. When you see it in action, it will hopefully make a lot of sense. But we'll see how it plays out.
All right, cool.
We'll see how it plays out.
That's the only really big question I have about Arctic Breath is just the pathing, because that seems to be the most important thing for it. Although, even with the pathing issues, it looks pretty good when he's shooting 11 projectiles out. Although the FPS issues are pretty real then.
Playing with Whispering Ice has me scared of Chilled Ground. I realize how effective it can be if you're keeping it up all the time, so I'm a little more scared of Arctic Breath than I was when I requested this change.
Yeah,
so.
Chilled Ground as a CC is incredible.
Yeah.
People often run level 1 Arctic Armor, not even for the quality bonus sometimes, but for the Chilled Ground. It's nice to have.
Scary. It's scary. I mean, it's scary for me. It's cool for you guys.
Scary for Rory, it's balance.
Yeah.
The other one was Ethereal Knives, obviously a personal favorite. I love that the projectile the quality bonus was changed to projectile speed now, because that's always super awesome to have on EK. But it seemed to already be a skill that was already pretty lacking in damage, and it's weird because it's a fizz skill that can scale so efficiently. You can use Hatred and Herald of Ash and Added Fire and such. But it still feels like even with all that, like the damage is fairly lacking on EK. And taking away the quality damage was taking one extra bit of damage away from it. Are you guys looking at EK much specifically?
And not specifically. It's one of those tricky things where looking at the stats, it was performing decently enough. Like we didn't look at it and say it needs major changes. But now compared to other stuff, maybe it's fallen behind, or maybe the opportunity cost now that people are wanting more sockets for golems, they don't have as many for heralds and so on. We'll have to see. But no immediate. There's a lot of skills that are getting major changes, but it just happens to be none of the ones that you're mentioning.
Well, how about we approach it from a different angle then? What are some interesting major changes coming to skills?
Let's see if I can find some nice, exciting ones.
Yeah. Rather than me throwing darts blindly at the wall.
One thing we're trying out, again, this is not something I'm having with punishment, is making it less damage reflect more a reward for being hit by a monster with punishment on it. We're trying out different things that we could do with that, but currently the reflect thing is just, we have to balance around the exploit case again, and the exploit case is you have 50 skeletons and you put it on Brutus, and so because of that it does almost nothing on bosses and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So that we're looking at it, which it might just turn into an all new skill if it's too different from punishment, or people really like keeping punishment for the corner cases. Currently, punishment is the easiest way to die to reflect. If you've got a monster that applies curses and it puts punishment on you, then you're in trouble. What else is there? I'll have a look at my list. We're looking at Burning Arrow possibly spreading burning when it applies burning, or when you hit a burning enemy, or something like that, or some sort of mini Herald of Ash burn application thing.
Cool.
Nothing to, I mean, it's still going to be the starting ranger skill, so it can't be like the AoE that you use all the way through the game, but just making it a little bit more useful to worth supporting for more than just burn prolif.
Chuck a little bit of a tar pot on it or something, so it puts a bit of ground fire down or something.
Yeah, probably more likely it's going to be a mini Ignite Nova that just applies Ignite.
Yeah, that'd probably be
because, yeah, burning ground is, well, yeah. There's reasons.
There's reasons. I trust you.
We've made a bunch of like minor AoE changes to a bunch of skills. Like Flame Surge is a little bit wider now. Firestorm is a little bit larger in terms of its fireballs. There's a bunch of things like that, which over time I think you'll really start to notice. I assume you noticed that channeled skills that no longer work with Echo. That's
Flame Blast. Yep.
Yeah. So that is a deal for them. Yeah, let me just keep going through my list until I. There's the Frenzy Charge thing, which I'm sure you're aware of, with the more damage on Frenzy Charges.
Yeah.
Which I'm
Big
really
buff for
curious to see how that plays out, because it's a huge buff. I mean, it's giving, depending on how much attack speed you have, like 6 or 7% more damage per Frenzy Charge. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Blood Rage is probably going to be changed to be Fizz damage rather than Chaos, even though this is going to screw up a bunch of. We're seeing the consequences of that, just because it's pretty much free for CI at the moment.
Yeah,
we want to give it a little more of a cost, especially considering how good Frenzy Charges are. If you're going to be using Blood Rage, you need to be, and getting the 12% more damage at the very least, then you need to be giving up something for it. This kind of screws over CI completely, because they'll just never get their recharge on their ES. So we'll look at different options for it so that it's possible to use with CI and recovery delay. But we're looking at, we just don't want it to be free for CI anymore. It's too good.
Yeah, well, it seems in line with a lot of the, those freebie granted mechanics with no decision making.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, we don't want it to ever be used with CI ever again. So we'll figure something out. But a lot of the stuff is we try it out and see how it feels. It might be with less fizz damage and reliable way to deactivate it. CI can keep it up when they get kills or something. We'll see.
Okay. So exploring options there before you panic, chat. Everyone's like, rip CI.
Yeah, I probably I might regret saying that. It's fine. Let's see. I'm not going to say any more like direct nerfs, because that will make people sad. Everything's being buffed. No. Shock Nova, we're currently trying out giving it a low damage Nova and a high damage ring.
Oh,
so it's more of a reliable AoE skill, but you still want to get them in that sweet spot. Obviously, it's going to feel a lot better with Lockstep when you can reliably get them, when you know exactly where they are, rather than the pixel making all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
But we still want it to be good if you're not using Lockstep, so having the Nova be more controllable. Oh, hang on, my cat's walking on my keyboard. Oh, God.
It's typing secrets to us. GGG secrets.
Elemental Hit is getting a chance to cause status elements built in addition to a small damage buff, probably.
Cool, nice. That's a good idea.
One thing we're trying out with Explosive Arrow is basing it on weapon damage. This might be problematic or might just not technically be feasible, but making it equivalent to Tornado Shot, and this is the big explosive skill that you get for reaching level 28 for killing Cravicius, rather than a very niche build. I mean, the cool rain thing is cool, but possibly,
I'm a little sad because it is cool about that one.
Yeah, You guys have had many years to play with it.
That's true.
Or then, and then again, we might just get a new skill like explosive arrow and keep explosive arrow sitting around
Explosive
for builds.
your skill. I see
The
you're
name is
master
not
of...
final.
I see you're not responsible for the writing in Path of Exile.
Ouch! Ouch! that stings. Yeah, I already mentioned the lightning strike thing, and we talked about temper shields. What else is there? I think that's pretty much it for the ones that I should talk about. There's some stuff I shouldn't talk about, but I probably shouldn't talk about it. We're looking at improving melee damage on full life, so it's not just a CI melee support, but I don't know what the options are yet. No one liked my suggestion, so back to the drawing board on that. But making that more useful support is the plan.
Any love for Viper Strike? I know a lot of people aren't really happy with where that is at the moment. How are you guys feeling about it?
It's really tricky because it is the highest DPS single target skill.
On paper it looks great.
Yeah, like when I was rebalancing it originally, the most recent big rebalance it got, it went through so many changes where like it always applied the Viper Strike debuff, but it was weaker, and that felt bad because you never felt like it was impactful. The damage took place over a shorter time, and that felt bad because you never had the situation where you could fill a monster up with charges and leave it. Like, it's really someone needs to make a call on what Viper Strike needs to be, and then we focus on making it that rather than trying to do everything with it, trying to have the long degen thing and the short fast burst TPS thing.
Yeah, that's just the thing. Like, a degen for melee is like, it's either going to be really OP for killing bosses, or it's going to be useless because you don't want to stand around waiting for mobs to die. Seems tough.
Yes, again, no good answer. But like the answer may not be doing anything with damage, leaving it as it is, or even turning it down, but giving it like spreading poison or something like that. But it's not currently on the tables because it's not one of the really problematic skills. It's hard to tell from the statistics because every shadow just leaves it socketed on their offset weapons, so it's hard to know how many people are actually using it.
You can't really distinguish between leveling a gem or just having it there to swap to versus actually using it. Interesting.
We don't know if it's on a bar, so yeah, it's hard to tell, but it seems to get decent use, and I mean there's always situations where it's useful. It's hard to say.
And I think the final one out of my list of skills to ask about was dominating blow. Any word on any thoughts on that? I guess.
Yeah, so that is getting. I don't know if maybe it's already had some of the changes. Maybe we haven't done the changes yet. Let me just bring up the actual list of changes so I don't give you something that we are no longer doing. But it's changing the minions to be closer to specters in terms of like, or changing specters to be closer to dominating blows, sort of evening them out, and having it so that it's let's see what I got here. Oh, definitely the mana cost is going way down, so it's a lot more usable.
I think that's the main thing a lot of people wanted. I think.
Yeah. It may already be on beta. I'm not sure. I guess it's hard to tell because it's not part of a main quest reward at the moment. I
think there's some issues with Bloodlines mods, isn't there? And dominating blow stuff.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of stuff which I'm definitely not the right person to ask about that because there's very much technical things where this is the way, like it converts the monster rather than killing it. So
yeah, right.
There's a bunch of stuff there, and a bunch of stuff that was done because this is really the only way we can do it without rewriting Bloodlines or dominating blow. So I'm the wrong person to ask, but there are often discussions. It's often brought up because we're aware that people aren't happy with how it interacts.
Yeah, fair enough. Alrighty, guys. I'm going to let you go soon, Rory, because it is your Sunday. But maybe we'll open up the chat just to some absolute chaos of question asking.
Oh, dear. Yeah, sure. Sounds fun.
Feel free to, at any point, pull any questions out of chat that you think look interesting. Otherwise, I'll try and pull some out. And please do keep in mind, guys, that Rory is good to ask about. Obviously, you've probably got a feel from it, but balance in general, passive tree design, skill design, and bosses. That's his main areas.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions flying past.
Is there going to be beta key giveaways? I'll tell you what, guys. I have some beta keys. I'll give some beta keys away.
Yeah, that's a relief because I have none.
Yeah,
so.
no, I told people not to expect any since you're at home on Sunday at the moment. Which props again for taking some time off of your Sunday.
I saw a question fly past about Enhance, Enlighten, and Empower. And yes, we're looking at... I mean, obviously we're reviewing the experience values because the experience stuff has changed. We talked about things like changing their levels, so Enlighten was like the very cheap, the easier to get of the three and just something you can throw on and have it a bit more impactful than it currently is. But there are adjustments going to be made to those. I don't know exactly what they are yet. I wouldn't make any promises, but stuff's changing.
Rad. Oh yeah, discipline was reduced down to 40%. Any potential like treatment for like that for things like haste or stuff that maybe seem a little lacking in terms of aura department?
It's not currently on that. We're currently reviewing the primary skills first, so I wouldn't again make any promises about that. It's a tricky one. It's again balancing around the exploit case, and those skills have the places where they're used best, and we don't want to just kill that use case for them. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. I saw something about blood magic, asking about auras on blood magic, and yeah, I'd really like to do something crazy, like have it so that blood magic gets one free aura or something like that. But it's really tricky to prototype that stuff. It takes up a lot of programmer time to do anything other than reducing cost with auras. So we'll see. I'd like to, but blood magic is something I'd want to see be used at endgame more, but other than on low life builds, but not on the immediate tables, sadly.
A few people asking about Arctic armor. That it was mentioned a while back that I think the mana cost has been reduced, right?
I believe so. If it hasn't, then it's
I think
going
it has,
to be.
in line
Yeah.
with the EB change. And there was some mention that maybe the mechanics would be changed a little bit. Have you guys thought about the mechanics of how it works and how it degens and stuff like that?
There's like 5 different things that we want to try out on Arctic armor, and some combination of them we'll get in. There's a bunch of little classy things being discussed, like making it so that the defensive bonus only applies when you're stationary and losing the mana degen when moving, or applying chill if you're hit with it and reducing the other defensive bonus slightly, so it's more about Arcticness, less about armor. A few things like that we're trying out. Like at some point, a programmer is going to make all these changes, then we're going to one by one tell them to remove them probably or adjust them. So there's a bunch of stuff. We're trying out a bunch of stuff with that because it is too popular and too good to give up. Like the opportunity cost of not using it is very high for caster builds.
Yeah, definitely.
It gives...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just saying, it gives a defense that you don't have access to for casters.
Phase mitigation, which is a big struggle. Whoa, that's damage. Someone in chat has been very patient. I'm going to finally ask their question. Totem life. It's been changed. What's exactly has happened with Totem life? Do you know?
It went up a fair amount. I was going to say like 40%-ish. That might be a too extreme a value. But then some totems had hidden mods on them that made increased totem life less effective. There's a bunch of it's effectively rebalanced with that stuff. The jewels that increase totem life are kind of throwing off our stats on knowing how defensive a totem can be, because you can get an absolutely massive amount of totem life at the moment, increased totem life. Whereas what I was really wanting, I've got a list of all the totem clusters and new values and stats on all the totem clusters in the tree. So speccing into totems should be more desirable. If you're going to be a totem character, you'll want to get a couple of clusters in it, and hopefully they'll be worth the effort of traveling to them or more accessible, whichever is appropriate. for the cluster.
When presented the option, I went for the tankiness based on my previous experience with totems, and mine feel to be in a pretty good spot. They die from, if I chuck them in the middle of a really nasty pack, they die instantly, but otherwise if I position them well, they seem to be pretty tanky. What I did notice though is they're exceptionally tanky versus bosses. They tank vol slams and dom slams like they're nothing. Did they get the same treatment as minions, where they take reduced damage from bosses?
That is a good question. The reduced damage from bosses is only with specific skills, so I would hope that it wouldn't apply to totems, because those specific skills were the big AoE ones that kill all your minions at once, whereas totems should probably die to them. But yeah, we might have to do the opposite and make totems do more damage if what you say is as impactful as they say.
It might just be their general tankiness, whereas like the boss big hit damage is enough to kill a player, but I mean they have like 10, 15k life probably or something like that, so they can survive a slam.
Some of the monster life increases also apply to totems, so they would have got a hidden buff based on monster life going up.
Interesting.
Which might require us working out exactly how much that is and reevaluating, because it's not as big a buff as monsters themselves got, but it'll make a difference.
Alrighty.
It'll make a difference.
Rad. Someone's been asking about mines and whether we're going to see any more changes, like especially quality of life improvements, like placing them at your feet and things like that.
This was discussed for a while. I'm not sure what the current plan is, but we definitely talked about a bunch of different things that we could do to make placement of them, have an option for better placement on mines in some way, shape, or form. It's definitely not perfect at the moment, and it's effectively most of the time you have to hold down shift all the time, so some way to avoid doing that all the time, but it's hard to say. In giving players more flexibility, they made it less user-friendly, which is a pain when we made the change to shift placement. I can tell you for other mine stuff, there's like a new mine and trap cluster coming in the passive tree. It's going to be turning up there at some point, with a new special stat, a stat that only applies to mines that no other things get. So that's cool. And totems are getting a similar thing. So yeah, that's placement is something there's lots of discussion on it. People care about it and people want to make the right decision with it, because I feel like my placement change for it previously was too hasty. Certainly upset some people.
Do you have any thoughts on hidden potential? I know you didn't really do jewels too much, but do you know much about hidden potential?
Remind me, the name rings a bell.
That's the one that gives you the damage buffs when you're wearing blue items. Like for many things, it seems pretty much useless, but for some things like poison arrow, for example, it seems like it could be really insane.
Yeah, my thought on it is that we should try different giving it defensive bonuses that you wouldn't just get from blue gear anyway, and less of an offensive bonus.
Okay.
As currently the way, even if you are using it for for skills that aren't so crazy with increased damage, having a rare or unique weapon and then magic gear is an awful lot of damage.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's under scrutiny, a lot like the other crazy jewels.
Who designed that one, do you know? Out of curiosity.
It was my suggestion, and Nick designed the item, but I wanted a unique item that got stronger based on magic items that you're wearing, and it became a jewel.
Interesting idea. What sort of inspired that?
Just as a weird niche build that a random unique could enable. Just something players can do for fun.
I trademarked Rory Edgemaster jewel. Alright. Have you seen any other questions in chat you'd like to pull out? I'd like to wrap things up soon and let you go.
Yeah, I haven't been looking. I'll read the ones that are there at the moment. I thought I'd given to me. So there was a question about aura totems being usable. There is a jewel that reduces the cost of aura totems significantly, but that's probably going to be the thing that you have to use if you're using an aura totem.
Seems like a pretty edge case build, but it's okay if it has a required unique.
Yeah, I mean, it makes aura's cheap, but for a while we talked about like Valorify aura as a thing, which would be crazy, which just greatly increases the aura effect but makes it a short-term buff, which I don't that's got too many problems with it, I think. But they're the same kind of thing of having a different way to use auras without reservation helps blood magic a lot, obviously. So if blood magic users just used totems for their auras, that would be awesome. But it's way too expensive at the moment.
Oh crap, what was that? I totally forgot what I was gonna ask. Oh man. I blanked right when I went to ask.
I saw something about claws, and
yeah, go ahead.
When I originally said that we were doing some stuff with claws, I was meaning just minor attack speed increases. But then when Carl looked at the claw changes, he said like, you promised some major changes to claws. These aren't good enough. So we made a bunch of changes to the implicits.
Yeah,
but yeah, the passives could probably do with more as well, as this person states. But at the moment, my focus isn't on the passive tree, because the whole skill rebalance thing makes some passive changes moot at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough.
Depending on what new decks melee skills we're getting, depending which ones turn out to be successful, claws might be popular for other reasons other than their passives. So we'll see.
Interesting. So my final question, and perhaps the most important question of the night, is: can you give us any teasers of upcoming fishing skills in the expansion? We don't like to talk about this too often, but
I probably shouldn't say anything. I will say that the number of unique fishing jewels dwarfs all the other unique jewels combined. No, I don't. I'm outside. I'm afraid I'm not high enough up in the company to answer any questions about fishing. That's really a very like top level, cutting edge stuff there that I just.
Fair enough.
I can guess, and I can hope, just like you guys.
Alrighty, Rory's the same as us, guys. Doesn't know anything about new fishing changes. We'll just have to wait and see. Well, Rory, thank you very much for coming on today. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Give your wife and Kat a thank you from all of us as well. Very much appreciated.
Kat is staring at me right now, expecting something.
Attention, please.
Attention. Yep. Wondering why I've been talking to myself for the past 2 hours. Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, it was good to talk to you.
It was great, Rory.
Hopefully
Thanks.
I don't get in too much trouble for all the answers. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Go apologize to Neon Spider.
If you don't see me anymore.
No.
You know. Okay, guys. Have fun, everyone. Thanks for playing Path of Exile.
Our pleasure. Alrighty, have a good one. Catch you later.
Cool. Catch you later.
Alright, yes! Oh, the round of applause for Rory in the chat there. Oh yes, and what a handsome devil too. That overlay picture, as I said at the start, he looks like a young Anthony Kiedis. So good. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. I think we got, insane amounts of awesome information. I would say, pretty full on. Sorry we couldn't ask all of your questions, guys, but I think we got through a whole lot of them. I'll show you I had this document that I worked through full of questions, and then a heap of your questions as well. I think we did alright. I think we did okay. I didn't want to keep him all day on his day off. Again, he took time out of his Sunday day off to just to come chat to us. What a legend. What a legend. And yes, Flame Whip confirmed.